Why some risks take years to become dangerous. The most dangerous risks rarely arrive suddenly. They grow quietly, and by the time they are visible, it is already too late. This matters now because modern finance is exceptionally good at detecting immediate threats. Sudden volatility triggers alarms. Sharp losses provoke response. But the risks that cause the greatest damage are not dramatic. They are patient. They accumulate slowly, hidden inside systems that appear stable, efficient, and well-managed. They are invisible not because they are disguised, but because the very conditions that allow them to grow are the same conditions that make them feel harmless. To understand why some risks take years to become dangerous, we need to rethink how danger forms. Risk is not always an event. Often it is a condition, a set of incentives left unchanged, a structure allowed to harden, a behavior repeated until it feels normal. Nothing breaks, nothing fails, and that is precisely why the risk grows unnoticed. The absence of failure is confused with the presence of safety. London has seen this pattern across centuries. The city understands that time can disguise danger as safety. Long periods of calm encourage leverage. Stability invites concentration. Predictability rewards repetition. What works today is scaled tomorrow and scaled again the year after. Each step feels rational. Each decision is justified by recent success. And each justification makes the next step feel even more reasonable. At first, these risks appear theoretical. Models say exposure is manageable. Safeguards look sufficient. History feels distant. The system appears resilient. Confidence grows not because risk is shrinking, but because nothing has gone wrong yet. This is the first warning sign. When time itself becomes a proof of safety, because the most dangerous risks are not those that shock the system. They are the ones the system slowly builds into itself, year after year, without ever forcing a reaction. And once time finishes its work, reversal is no longer optional. It is unavoidable. These risks grow strongest where success repeats without interruption. When outcomes remain favorable, assumptions harden. What once required vigilance becomes routine. Safeguards are treated as guarantees rather than buffers. Exposure increases not through recklessness, but through comfort. Each year of calm quietly justifies the next. The story told about the system becomes a story about its strength, and strength stories make it harder to notice accumulating fragility. London understands how repetition reshapes perception. As systems operate without failure, participants stop questioning why they work. Structures are optimized for efficiency, not resilience. Redundancy feels wasteful. Flexibility feels unnecessary. The system becomes lean, and leaning always reduces margin. This is how long-term risk embeds itself. Small compromises accumulate. Temporary measures extend quietly. Exceptional conditions become normal. Each of these transitions happens without announcement. No one decides that the margin is now gone. It simply diminishes, increment by increment, until the day a small pressure finds nothing left to absorb it. None of these choices feel dangerous in isolation. Each is rational, even responsible. But together, they change the character of the system. Risk concentrates in places that no longer feel risky. Exposure deepens where oversight feels unnecessary. Time accelerates the effect. The longer nothing breaks, the more convincing safety appears. New participants enter under the assumption that stability is structural. Institutional memory fades. Past failures feel relevant. The system forgets what stress actually looks like, and in forgetting, loses the ability to recognize its early signs. This is where danger becomes invisible, not because it is hidden deliberately, but because familiarity dulls attention. London has learned that the greatest warning sign is not volatility. It is uninterrupted calm. Because when risk takes years to become dangerous, it is often because no one is watching anymore. The conflict emerges when slow risk finally meets pressure. For years, the system absorbs strain without complaint. Margins thin gradually. Dependencies deepen quietly. Exposure grows in places no one monitors closely anymore. Everything still works until something small changes. It is rarely a shock that triggers failure. It is friction, a mild slowdown, a modest policy shift, a subtle change in confidence. London has witnessed this pattern repeatedly. When slow risk collides with even minor disruption, the reaction is disproportionate. Systems that appeared robust reveal brittleness. Safeguards designed for volatility struggle against duration. What was manageable short-term becomes destabilizing over time. This is where delayed danger shows itself. Participants discover that exiting positions is harder than expected. Liquidity behaves differently under prolonged stress. Correlations shift. The assumptions built during calm no longer apply. But by now, exposure is embedded. Adjusting requires unwinding years of accumulated behavior. The system is like a structure whose foundations were quietly replaced with materials that looked identical but were never tested under load. The system resists because reversing slow risk feels like admitting long-term error. Institutions hesitate. Corrections are partial. The desire to preserve appearance delays decisive action. Time, once the ally of stability, becomes an accelerant of strain. London understands this hesitation. The city knows that long-built risks cannot be removed quickly without consequence. The longer they remain unaddressed, the more painful adjustment becomes. Yet acting too forcefully risks triggering the very instability the system was built to avoid. This creates paralysis, not because the danger is unknown, but because it is too familiar. And when risk has been normalized for years, urgency arrives far too late, which is why the most dangerous phase is not the buildup. It is the moment when everyone finally realizes how long the buildup lasted. The climax arrives when time completes its work, not with a single collapse, not with a dramatic shock, but with recognition. The system realizes that the danger was never sudden. It was cumulative. Years of small decisions, repeated without resistance, have converged into a condition that can no longer absorb pressure. What once felt stable now feels fragile. What once felt efficient now feels exposed. London understands this moment with precision. The city knows that slow risks do not explode, they surface. And when they do, the adjustment is not optional. It is already overdue. The only question left is how much flexibility remains to absorb correction without breaking trust. This is a resolution of long-term danger. Risk that grows slowly demands patience to unwind. Structures built over years cannot be dismantled instantly, and credibility, once strained, takes even longer to restore. Those who acted early regain balance with less pain. Those who delayed face sharper trade-offs. The system adapts, but only after acknowledging what time quietly created. Stability returns, not as comfort, but as discipline rebuilt through humility. The lesson is unforgiving. Time does not eliminate risk. It concentrates it. Calm does not guarantee safety. It often disguises accumulation, and the absence of crisis is not proof of resilience. It is sometimes a condition that allows danger to grow unnoticed. London's enduring strength is not avoiding these risks entirely. It is recognizing them before time finishes the job. So the question remains, if the most dangerous risks take years to become visible, how many are we already living with? Simply because nothing has happened yet? The organizational dimension of this problem is as important as the financial one. Within institutions, the people most responsible for monitoring slow-building risks are often the ones most habituated to conditions that allow those risks to accumulate. Institutional memory, the accumulated experience of having operated within a system for years without encountering its failure modes, becomes a liability rather than an asset when that experience is interpreted as evidence that failure is unlikely. The people who know the system best are sometimes the least able to see it clearly, precisely because their expertise was developed during conditions that never tested the system's deeper vulnerabilities. This is why external perspectives, uncomfortable questions, and structured challenges to prevailing assumptions are not merely useful. They are essential maintenance for any system that operates over long enough horizons to accumulate slow risk. Not because outsiders are smarter, but because they have not been trained by the system's own successful operation to regard its current functioning as a reliable guide to its future stability. The city's most durable institutions have typically maintained some version of this external scrutiny, a deliberate refusal to allow the absence of recent failure to serve as the principal argument against the possibility of future failure. That refusal, maintained consistently across cycles, is one of the most undervalued forms of risk management available to complex financial systems. Why